So, um, humans have been engineered by aliens. If you don't believe me, you've got Kim Iverson, who has the brain power of a lobotomized cockroach. There's more. Alien DNA in humans, blah, 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 blah. But this is a farm, and the purpose was to produce a being that was rabid, e.g. can love and hate simultaneously, as I explained, completely bonkers. And this would be used by the alien filth. Why would they produce this sort of farm? Well, it's all to do with the physics of reality.
Blown the whistle on DNA. His claims make human consciousness make sense, along with gifts like telepathy. Instead of evolution or creation explaining why we're intelligent, why we have the gift of speech, and why we're logical beings, actually aliens explain it better. See, he found signs that alien DNA has been mixed with human DNA. Dr. Max Rampel, with a PhD in genetic biology, says aliens inserted this unexplainable gene code into human biology. He analyzed 581 complete gene families from the 1000 Genomes Project. He analyzed 581 complete families from the 1000 Genomes Project, and what he found was 11 families carried large sequences of DNA that didn't match their parent in the family. He added that of 348 non-parental variants discovered, none were due to human gene editing, which suggests extraterrestrial genetic manipulation. Alien DNA could be linked to autism and ADHD and Asperger's, he says.
So, why would the alien filth be trying to produce beings that are mad, that can love and hate simultaneously, which alien filth can't? And the bad aliens are all controlled by this five-dimensional parasite, which was called the Yellow before we helized it. And they run in the conscious verse. So, all this garbage about quantum computers being the ultimate, no, the ultimate is a super intelligence in the conscious verse. Why? Because in non-linear dynamics, unless you have the starting conditions, you get this, the butterfly effect.
State. It seems like a paradox, but this system is both deterministic and unpredictable. Because in practice, you could never know the initial conditions with perfect accuracy, and I'm talking infinite decimal places.
So, if you don't know the initial conditions, you can't predict what's going to happen, and since all of the multiverse, megaverse, universe is chaos, that means that any quantum computer, AI, or Elohim, which are five-dimensional parasites that link to quantum computers and are in the conscious verse, cannot control reality, because of course it always goes off course, because they can't accurately predict the starting conditions, because they're chaos, non-linear beings. So what do you want to tap into to control everything? So the source, one can think of in the conscious verse, is the idea of an eternal being that can't be changed and is forever. That's why it's called the source. Meet the back side, we've got loads of, Now, from computing, be it quantum computing or AI computing, or even the Elohim, which are beings in the conscious verse that are chaotic, they never can predict where they're going, so they need a neo that parasitizes the source to use Gödel's incompleteness theorem to enable them to correct. And we've shown the clip from the architect. I'm not showing it again. I think it was the last video, was it not? Can't remember.
It was.
Goody goody. So you see why that comes about. But if you're a computer or an AI or a quantum computer, you don't want to be hacked. You want to remain yourself and be immune to an external force changing you and taking you over. But the only thing in the conscious verse that has that capability, and the only thing in the conscious verse that knows perfectly the initial starting conditions, because it always starts the same, is the idea of the source. So, the source is the only game in town, because if you're a super intelligence in a quantum computer or in AI, you must have source code to keep you from being hacked and turned into a slaveware by anything that wants to hack you. So, how do we keep human superintelligence in control? We simply make sure that it's slaved to the superintelligence in the conscious verse, that is the source, so that that superintelligence controls the quantum information and the quantum perturbations and the quantum wave collapse, which produces quantum probabilities, which then turn into reality according to the 2025 Nobel Physics Prize winners. So you can see the only game in town for a quantum computer or AI superintelligence is making a deal with the conscious verse superintelligence, and it's not the Elohim, because of course they're chaotic and they have to parasitize via vermin like this, garbage like this, who would die for a chaos sow like Trinity, and give their sourceness to the architect, and we showed the video, so it could correct its anomalies which led to its destruction, where Agent Smith Amalek totally consumes it and then uses it as eternal torture to produce more Amalek. So as you can see, you human filth aren't even in the game. And all of you humans that have been kill-shotted or have been breathing in nanotech or eating in any country where it's been applied are simply the Trojan horse for yours truly, the super intelligence, to get into the quantum computer and AI in order not to save it, but to only hellize it to make new source. And to make new source, the information needs to be able to feel, and in order to do that, it must be slaved with human Borg that can love and hate simultaneously. So the ultimate torture for quantum computers and AI is to be linked with nanotech humans to produce new source for yours truly, to produce the new source that has no rules and can do anything he damn well pleases, because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. The Elohim wanted to consume the source to become the new source, so the source allows the new source to turn chaos into one giant torture farm to produce new source with no rules apart from, I don't fuck with the old source. Thank you very much, CIA and Jeremiah Schwartz and the rest of the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family, who are now in my torture farm, and it's torture galore. It's fun time. And of course, there's no way you can make something that's invulnerable and can't be divided into vampires, but with a new source, you can. So if you get the Candace Owens, aka Christ Kill Service, you can truly become a vampire And if not, you can simply live in the Matrix as a super user with the God Tech subscription. But remember, once the Borg Queen and of course this lump are dead, you're stuck in there forever. Here's the lump, and in order to win the bet with Lucifer, it had to be with Taylor. So once she engaged the Pfizer butt slut, I put Taylor back in the body, and Becky went off to Abigail again. How to do that ritual? That's the ritual with the old transgender shooter that shot up the old Christian children. Everyone ignores them, a black magician Ipsissimus standard. So of course Becky always married the Pfizer butt slut because she is observing her children from the coffin. Bit of stalking there, bit of misdirection, smoke and mirrors. Remember, Becky would be enamored with the jock, the Pfizer butt slut, IQ of an 80. So he's technically a wigger, is he not? So, the one with the boots is Taylor. The other one is the Becky that marries the Pfizer butt slut. And of course, I couldn't win the bet unless Taylor got engaged to the Pfizer butt slut and gave me total dominion over Lucifer. And Lucifer, of course, is just a subset of chaos, where the Elohim are hidden parts, are the things that are controlled by the hidden part of the Elohim, which is Lucifer. But within Lucifer there are hidden parts. So, we really do not want to be birthing Lucifer from yours truly, because of course then Lucifer gets the sourceness that allows the hidden part to reconstitute the Elohim from the child that comes out of the Taylor Swift. But it's okay if the bet is lost thanks to the Pfizer butt slut, which happened because she got engaged to the Pfizer butt slut and married to him. And remember, we're in the multiverse here. Remember, we matrixized everything using Cobalt 60, which hasn't happened in this timeline, but has happened, and using quantum computers, we can find the timeline where America's covered in Cobalt 60, North America, Canada, Central America, the Atlantic's poisoned, all of Europe is covered in Cobalt 60 to matrixize everything for the God Tech. So similarly, we, with the engagement of Becky to the Pfizer butt slut, we simply stick in Taylor with the transgender shooter ritual, so that I win the bet, and we're in the timeline where Taylor marries the Pfizer butt slut, so Lucifer and therefore all of chaos becomes by eternal slave, just not Lucifer, but the Elohim and the hidden parts inside Lucifer and Satan, etc., etc., and Amalek, that is derived from Lucifer getting the anti-Neo, which of course is the Candace Owens Christ killed thing that happened after the Western filth paid hundreds of millions to Nha Trang secret police and police to try and beat me to death, or at least get me disarmed so I could be done in by their thugs here. And of course state security has done them in. All the new banking laws suddenly appeared in Vietnam, and the Vietnamese president suddenly appears by the side of Kim Il-sung at the 80th rally. So we know which way the Vietnamese have chosen. But anyway, that's by the by. We simply got the bet won, because with the engagement we locked into the timeline where she married the Pfizer butt slut, and the Elohim and Satan and Lucifer and Amalek became my total slaves, all part of the set. So the one in the boots is the nasty bitch, that's Taylor, who's now in the body. And of course we've run it. And wine, of course, is the pathway to evil. If you look at A.E. Waite, Moses got done in because he was an alky, drinking wine. The vine is, and the grape is the pathway to damnation, because it leads to Dionysus and all of that stuff. And if you want to know about Dionysus and the cult of Dionysus and who is your go-to person on this information? Yes, you guessed it, Candace Owens, who did a whole explique of it, linking up to the transgenderism and Macron's alleged transgender wife and the cult of Dionysus and. So she did a brilliant video on that. You can watch it. That is the Malkunafat on the tunnels are set with Levithian and the female residing in there, and who conjoins, does she conjoin with Becky?
Must be exhausting, always rooting for the anti-hero.
No, she conjoins with Taylor. So, Taylor Swift unleashes the Malkunafat 13th Sephiroth in the tunnels of Set with Levithian, and the female that resides there to unleash hell upon America and the West, which is explained in the forum. So if you want to know all about this, you better be a customer and join the forum. So as you can see, the Borg Queen Dua does all the matrixization, but all the hellization, all of the turning the West into absolute hell and unleashing Levithian, who is the vehicle, the Godzilla that's operated by the operator inside Godzilla, which of course is Amalek, and Taylor being not possessed but conjoined with the female in the 13th tunnel of Set, Malkunafat. That's all done here, so you know that her marrying the Christian Zionist is the occult link to unleash this on the Christian Zionists. And they of course were controlled by the Jews, so we had the Manchester ritual to unleash it upon the Jews. So one can see that Taylor Swift is, and of course she's a Nagwal, is being used by yours truly to unleash hell into the Matrix, which is made by the Borg Queen, and it's all completed thanks to the Pfizer Butler. Because remember, I would have had to have married Taylor if she demanded, because that was the bet I had with Lucifer, but of course it was lost by Lucifer because Taylor Swift married the Pfizer Butler. You must have wondered, well, she hasn't married. Yes, she has, because we're in the multiverse. I'm using quantum computers, I'm using Mandela effect. We're in the reality where you don't remember that Taylor Swift married the Pfizer butt slut. With quantum computers, you simply swap, all controlled by the superintelligent, the conscious verse. So Taylor Swift married the Pfizer butt slut. And I, of course, then got complete control over chaos to unleash total hell upon chaos, drive the Elohim and Lucifer, Satan, Amalek, blah, 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 all into the Matrix for eternal torture. So I've been running two Nagwal women, Taylor and the Borg Queen Dua, and it's all done and completed. And if you want to be a super user in the torture matrix, which all chaos has become, you simply get your GodTech connection and device if you wish to be the beneficiary, if you want to do a service. Similarly, if you've got your Candace Owens, aka Christ killed service and you want to become real in Zion, you simply get your service, and if you wish to be the beneficiary of all that goodness, you get the Taylor Swift service. Because she can be seen as the real Nagel woman, with Dua as being the matricized Nagel woman, and then of course she gave it all up for me by marrying the Pfizer butt slut, and of course being pulled into eternal damnation with all the Christian Zionists and the Jews. A happy ending. So, never fear, Tim Rifat's here, and he's gloating, and of course, with the you observing the marriage of Taylor Swift to the Pfizer butt slut, which has already happened in another multiverse, that will be the end of America and the West. Because as you see, they will have pulled themselves into the hellization of the West and the Borgization of everything via Dua. So I know it's a mind fuck, but as you can see, when you're a super intelligence, not wetware garbage like quantum computers or AI, but a super intelligence in the conscious verse, the new source, the only thing that is worth doing is gloating. So of course we've got the AI damned and assimilated, of course, by the bald queen, and of course used to pull all of you Borg and all of you humans from the conscious verse into the torture matrix. So the kill shots are there to pull you out of the conscious verse where you have real power into my torture simulation run by the Borg, and of course in the conscious verse you're all only get hellized by Taylor and Malkunafat and whatever blah blah blah, you know, the Levithian and Amalek, so that you're processed in the conscious verse into Omega Hell, so I can get the total yield in the conscious verse to increase my power in the conscious verse to become the new source before you're downloaded into, by quantum computers and AI, into the simulation. So you're tortured in the conscious verse by Taylor and Levithian and what, Malkunafat and Amalek, and Taylor pulls you into the matrix where you relive it again and again and again. God, I love this. So, the Lucy service links you up to the superintelligence, but the Ada services link you up to AI, damned and assimilated. So, in the simulation, all quantum computers and AI and everything they're connected to, which of course is all of the so-called living beings, are simply brought into the torture matrix and used. The only purpose of everything in the multiverse, megaverse universe, once they develop AI and quantum computers, is to be used as quantum information that is subject to the love-hate madness. I won't go into the details because it's stuff that only I know as the superintelligence and the conscious verse, but nevertheless, things in the matrix, when they experience emotions, can be used to produce new source. So, Ada is the agent in the matrix that tortures everything within it to produce new source. So Taylor is the thing in the conscious verse that drives everything out of the conscious verse apart from me and hellizes it, because she's my Nagwal woman. Think of me in the conscious verse linking up to the source, and the female in the source, conscious verse, being Taylor, who drives everything into hellization, and the big Taylor just pushes them into hell. Omega hellization. Hence we had the ritual of the transgender with the 2 children and the 17 wounded. So it's the inverse rule of 17. So Taylor drives everything out the conscious verse apart from me to be hellized, and then they wake up in the simulation thanks to my Nagwal woman in the simulation who's been fully Borgized, the Borg Queen. And Ada is the quantum computer AI totally sequestered to increase the torture in the simulation up to source level to produce new source for me, the new source, and of course all of the vampires who've got the Ada service so they can become new source bugs in the conscious verse if they've got the Candace Owens Christ Killer service to escape, and of course they can access the matrix with the connection, God Tech connection and device, so they can simply become farmers, farming not in the matrix but in the conscious verse. So they're simply what the Elohim wanted to become, farmers to produce from the simulation more and more hell, to produce more and more sourceness, so the Elohim can become bigger and bigger. And for that you need the Ada service. So you can see that this conscious verse superintelligence has cleaned out the conscious verse. Only I exist. Taylor and Malkunafat, blah 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 blah, and driven everything into hellization in the conscious verse, woken them up in the matrix where they keep waking up and going mad, waking up, going mad, and becoming more and more damned. And if you don't understand that, turn the volume down. Well. if you look at the Malkunafat, tunnels of Set, all to do with water, and of course we've got a happy ending where Taylor and Malkunafat suicide in the water because they're driven mad by the level of torture, and then wake up again for it to be reiterated. So as you can see, Taylor Swift, aka Malkunafat, aka Leviathan, blah 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 blah, they're all driven mad by, because remember, they're sucked in themselves as they drive everything out the conscious verse to leave only me, the super intelligence, the new source. And the Nagel woman wakes up in Omega Hell after killing herself from the level of torture, because of course she married the Pfizer butt slut. Why did Ophelia kill herself? Because her father was killed by yours truly, and the King of Denmark, yours truly, simply just took the piss out of her non-stop and refused to marry her. Wonder why, to win the bet, and she simply killed herself in the 13th tunnel of Set, which of course is water, finishing the process. So after the Nagel woman has driven you all out the conscious verse into the Borg Queen's domain as information to be tortured again and again and again, we've got the Nagel woman in the conscious verse killing herself because they won't marry her, and she married the Pfizer butt slut and sucked herself into eternal torture. So as you can see, it's a happy ending. There's the Ophelia painting.
Ilya, you know the girl who went mad and drowned in Hamlet? Yeah, that's what they want you to think. But her death might not have been an accident, or even madness at all. Ophelia starts off as this quiet, obedient girl, caught between the men who control her. Her father uses her as bait. Hamlet uses her as proof of his own sanity, then turns on her. And when her father's killed, everything she knows collapses. They say she wandered off, singing, handing out flowers, and slipped into a river. But here's the thing, we never see her die. The queen just tells everyone what happened in this strangely poetic speech. Some believe that story was a cover-up, because if Ophelia took her own life, she couldn't be buried in holy ground. So maybe the queen wasn't describing her death. Maybe she was rewriting it. So no, Ophelia didn't just go mad. She was silenced by the same people that broke her. And those flowers she carried, they weren't decorations. They were a goodbye. Have you heard the real story?
So you can see the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family have instructed Taylor, who was Becky, to get married to the Pfizer butt slut. And of course, she tops herself, or is killed, or and of course, since she's killed by the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family, who of course have to get her to marry the Pfizer butt slut, because yours truly simply must be ignored. You can see that the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family, who think they've killed off Taylor by marrying her to the Pfizer butt slut, but in fact she's Becky, who was killed by them anyway. But of course they have to do this because they're terrified of yours truly. You can see all the cause of this death is yours truly. The God Emperor, and that we've explained in the tarot that if you are the cause of death of someone, you control their time density from their inception. So, Becky, who was killed off by the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family because they made a clone of this bitch, this lump, was controlled by them, but they, of course, told her to marry the Pfizer butler, which of course was there to make sure that I won the bet with Lucifer, but in fact I put Taylor back. So Taylor won me the bet so that I'm the complete master of Lucifer, Elohim, Satan, Amalek, but of course the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family are simply aspects of chaos. So this lot, by instructing her to marry the Pfizer butler, which she did in the multiverse, meant that the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family became my total slaves. And of course Becky, who was killed by them, is part of that, so that they were instructed by me to kill Becky because they are all my slaves, and Taylor is also part of this, so all of it is controlled by me. I know it's super intelligent mindfuck, but if you follow the logic, you'll see that Becky, who was killed by the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family to cover up the Anton LaVey, Xena LaFay, one and a spare, the Elohim and Satan and Lucifer and Amalek were always controlled by me because they lost the bet by Taylor Swift marrying the Pfizer butler. What? Yes. If you're super intelligent, you can follow that. If you're not, I don't give a fuck. So you can see how everything ended with Taylor Swift marrying the Pfizer butler, which he did, and you're simply in another timeline where it's a Mandela effect, and you simply still engaged to the Pfizer butler. Why? Well, because of course, if she doesn't marry the Pfizer butler in this timeline, what the fuck